So Tim Kurkjian joins us now. He does every week, as he does every week. 786-456-4837 is the telephone number if you want to talk to Tim Kurkjian. Baseball questions, etiquette questions, whatever you got. Does Tim Kurkjian, does Danny Cannell look like the friend who belches, then blows the aroma in your face? Does Sam Darnold look like he was conceived at a frat house during rush week? Does Tom Thibodeau look like he sweats while taking a shower? That he does, right? That he does, for sure.
Isn't he the antacid guy?
No, is he? Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Tom
he is.
Thibodeau is loosening his tie because his stomach is upset about something in the antacid commercial. That's correct. He's also, my father also says he looks like a butcher, which is not clever, but is true. Paul, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Tom, for the first time in MLB history, there will be more strikeouts than hits this month. How big of a problem is that for the future of the game? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this. I have been for the last 5 years at least, and really for the last 30 years. It's just too much, guys. I love the game. I always will. But too many guys are swinging as hard as they can on every pitch. They're swinging the same on 3-0 as they do on 0-2, and even though the pitching today is ungodly great, and I don't know how anyone ever puts it in play, we have to have an adjustment from our hitters because there are just way too many strikeouts. We're going to have 10 guys strike out 40 times before we get to May. And I know it's a different time and it's a different era, but Tony Gwynn's strikeout high was 40. DiMaggio was 39. Yogi Berra was 38. And now we're going to have a dozen guys maybe strike out that many times before we get to May. It's too many, and that's one reason why the games last so long as we average 16.5 strikeouts per game.
Against Iowa, Josh Allen had 174 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Mike, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Tom. I want to know if the Phillies can keep this up, and more importantly, could Gabe Kapler win a Royal Rumble with all 30 MLB managers?
Oh, that's a good question.
Excellent.
That's a good question.
Yeah, Gabe Kapler would probably win. You know, he lifts weights. I think I'm even told he lifted with the players early in spring training, which I found unusual, but he's in phenomenal physical shape. Doug Rader would have killed him in a fight years ago, but not anymore. I would say, yes, he would win the Rumble. And, yes, I think the Phillies are pretty good. Now, they're not going to win that division, but I think they're in the playoff hunt for a wild card because the additions they made with Jake Arrieta and others, they're better than most people thought, including me.
Josh Allen, Nebraska, 5 interceptions.
Chris, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Chris.
Tom, how far do you think Giancarlo Stanton could drop down in the lineup this year?
I think the worst is over for him, and I don't see any benefit in dropping him to 7th or anything like that, no matter how poorly things go. But that lineup is going to be so long and so deep once everyone gets healthy, and they are close to it, that it's just going to be breathtaking to watch that team swing the bat. We're starting to see the early signs of it, but I just think Stanton's had his worst stretch, and he will be pretty much very good the rest of the way.
Josh Allen, Nevada, 145 yards.
Parker, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Parker.
Hey, Jim, what would your wife say is the best thing that you cook for her?
Well, I stink at it, but I try. I can make chicken marsala pretty well now. I've tried it many times. I really fouled it up the first 5 times. But I've got it now, and I think she will acknowledge that it's pretty good. And I won't say that about too many things I cook because, I repeat, I stink at it.
Josh Allen, Oregon, 9 completions, 24 attempts, 64 yards.
Do you agree, Tim Kurkjian, that Pau Gasol looks like a flightless bird? A flightless bird of some sort?
He was an ostrich a year ago, wasn't he?
Yes or no? Not an ostrich. Just all flightless birds look like Pau Gasol. Does John Harbaugh look like the cyclist who gets visibly upset with you as you drive past him, despite the fact that you're diligently obeying all traffic laws? Does Trey Wingo look like the red-faced soccer dad who charges the ref after a loss only to flop on the ground like a fish when accidentally bumped by a 6-year-old? Kevin, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hey, Mr. Kazakhstan, how you doing? I was wondering, who do you think would win at arm wrestling, Mike Trout or Aaron Judge?
Well, I'm not good at that. I don't think I've ever won one of those. I would say Trout would win because he's got shorter arms, and I think, knowing nothing about it, that's really important. Plus, he still weighs 235, and he's unbelievably strong. So I'll take Trout because he's got shorter arms.
Josh Allen, Hawaii, 92 yards.
Andrew, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yes, Tim, I wanted to ask you what your favorite minor league park was.
I haven't been to many lately, I must say, but I did cover the Alexandria Dukes in 1978-79 in a place called 4 Mile Run Park. And one of my writer friends at the Washington Post just jokingly called it 3 Mile Island Park. Just kidding. And it got in the paper for one edition the next day. He was just messing around to see if the desk would catch it, and the desk didn't catch it once. So it went as 3 Mile Island Park, right at a very sensitive time. It was not funny, but 40 years later it was.
Well, okay, no, it's still not. But the idea, though, the idea, Tim, that you would be asked for your favorite minor league ballpark and it would conjure a story from 4 decades ago that involves that kind of disaster doesn't give off favorite.
All right. As I already said, I haven't been to very many minor league parks lately.
Brian, you're on with Tim Kurkjian. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Tim, I was wondering, I know you were in Puerto Rico recently for a 16-inning game. I was wondering, what's the longest game you've ever been a part of?
I covered a 19-inning game one year. I never got to 20. 16 was pretty long, 5.5 hours, 2-1 final, and promoted a interesting discussion on the air whether we should be going to a runner on second base in the 12th inning with nobody out. I'm still against that. But after that game, my Carl Ravitch was all over it. We can't do this anymore. 16 is excess innings. That's enough.